Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 8th overall spot on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. In this video, I'm going to go over all of my picks as well as the picks surrounding me to overall give you guys a good feel of how I feel about the draft, as well as my own picks, obviously, since I need to go in depth on my own decision making before I make each and every single pick in this draft. So like I said, this is a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 8th overall spot on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. The roster positions go as follow: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. I'm going to be drafting this time up against NFL.com pre-draft rankings. It kind of just changes how the draft goes, and I think it's pretty interesting since it switches it up a little for every single draft. So we're not drafting up against the same ADP every single time. So if at any point in this video you guys happen to end up enjoying, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. I put out this kind of content every single goddamn day. This is the second video of the day. If you want to check out the earlier video, I do my 6th round buy or sell ADP, or 5th round, I believe, buy or sell ADP, where I talk about the whole 5th round of the draft and go over whether I would buy or sell the players at that position. Pretty much meaning, do I draft them or will I fade them? Also, while you're down there, check out the Patreon. Has all my rankings, has some additional information, help you guys win even further in your 2020 Fantasy Football League. So let's get right into it, into the mock draft. So here we're drafting later, obviously, in the first round, which is a spot that I kind of prefer, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. I think the 8, 9, 10 pick in 10-team leagues is where I'd prefer to draft, due to the fact that I feel like you can get 2 solid running backs back-to-back in the first and second round, whereas at a lot of other picks inside of the draft, especially if you're in the first 3 picks, sure, you get one of those elite tier running backs or maybe a wide receiver. Personally, I don't go for a wide receiver, but sometimes that's who gets picked there. But that's not what I want to do. I want to make sure I get 2 star-studded running backs that I feel comfortable starting on a week in and week out basis, and that's what you find around the 8, 9, 10 picks. So the first pick of the draft was CMC, followed by Saquon Barkley, Michael Thomas, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Devontae Adams, and Dalvin Cook. So a very typical start to the draft. Obviously, I don't condone drafting Michael Thomas at the 3 spot until after Kamara and Zeke come off the board. I wouldn't even think about picking Michael Thomas, and even in that case, I'm probably still not picking him, considering I'm really looking to gun for that running back position, since I feel like after the second round into the third round is where the running backs really start to fall off, and you're going to see a bunch drafted in the first 2 rounds. Then the wide receivers are really going to come flying in, RKO out of nowhere, Randy Orton style, in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. So we are on the board here at the 8th pick. Now, the reports are still that Joe Mixon does have what we call his migraines. He has migraines, which is like, I don't know if you guys fucking know what that is, since I really I didn't know too much what that was until like a couple years ago, because I've gotten one before, and it's like an extreme goddamn headache. So that's no bueno, obviously. So hopefully he's going to be a-okay. There were reports initially that he was going to hold out. Now they're saying that he's not going to. So to me, at this pick, there's 3 different guys. You can go Mixon, you can go Henry, or you can go with CEH. The safest pick here is Henry. The riskiest pick is probably Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and the pick in the middle is probably Joe Mixon. Here I'm going to go ahead and snag Derrick Henry. Now, reports out of camp are that Derrick Henry is going to catch the ball. Now, I've never seen Derrick Henry be actually good at catching the ball. I've seen this motherfucker have stone goddamn hands. He has butter on his fingers. His fingers are lubed up, full-on KY jelly. So I have no idea if he's going to be able to actually catch the ball or not. But what I do know is that they're saying he might, and that just gives me enough confidence to pick him there, even though I think he will be fine regardless if he catches the ball or not. This guy is going to be one of the top 3 guys, in my opinion, in rushing yards, and could be the rushing yard leader yet again in the NFL, so I would not be surprised again if he does that. So I'll happily pick him here at the 108 after I went with Derrick Henry. Big Dick Nicholas Chubb came off the board, followed by DeAndre Hopkins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Joe Mixon. A little too early in my head for CEH. I just feel like Julio and Tyreek are much better picks, as well as I'd prefer to draft Chris Godwin there. If you guys want to see my full wide receiver rankings, there's a video on that on my channel as well. All the other picks are pretty normal. Here it leaves me with 2 picks here. You can either go with either guy at this spot for me, and that's Josh Jacobs or Austin Ekeler. I prefer Josh Jacobs slightly, but we already drafted Derrick Henry, and I want to kind of balance out my team. Get a guy that's really good at catching the ball, and then get a guy that's very good at running. Josh Jacobs is also not a guy that is known to have that pass-catching prowess in the NFL, obviously, in his rookie season. He just wasn't a guy that was given that many opportunities to catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, reports are, just like with Derrick Henry, that Josh Jacobs is going to see more targets, but I actually believe it with Josh Jacobs, because Josh Jacobs doesn't have butterfingers, whereas Derrick Henry just can't seem to catch the ball. I could be wrong, obviously, and Derrick Henry could catch the ball 50 fucking times, but that would probably make him the running back 1 in fantasy football. since in PPR, catching the ball is so important. So here we're to start off the draft with Derrick Henry and Austin Ekeler of the LA Superchargers. Austin Ekeler's tweeted out a zillion times about how he is going to take your team to the promised land, how he is going to kill your fantasy football opponents, and I love that. I love that he cares about us fantasy football people. So shout out to Austin Ekeler for saying that. It really does. That's pretty fucking beautiful for him to say that. So after Austin Ekeler, but that's not why we draft him, because any player could say that they want to help you win your fantasy team and then could be complete and utter duds. So after him with Austin Ekeler, Josh Jacobs came out the board, followed by Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, Kenyon Drake, Miles Sanders, Travis Kelce, and Aaron Jones to close out the second round. So we see Kelce come in the second round. We have not seen Mahomes, Lamar, or Kittle come off the board in the second round, but they do come shortly after inside of the third round. After Aaron Jones came out the board, we see Chris Godwin, followed by Patty Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Todd Gurley, George Kittle, Kenny Golladay, and Mike Evans. So you're going to be seeing Kittle and Kelce, the big two tight ends, come off the board in the second and third round. Same thing goes with Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in pretty much every single league. I barely ever see them escape the third round. We've seen, like I said, a lot of running backs heavily dominated by the running back position here early in the draft. The third round more dominated by other positions since only one running back has been taken in the third round through the first 7 picks, which is kind of what I suspected since that's what happens in a lot of drafts. Now, right here, we are in a 10-team league, which makes me more prone to kind of draft the tight end position. Now, why I believe this is because the positional value in a 12 or 14-team league at tight end just is not as important in a 10-team league. In a 10-team league, pretty much every single team in this league, as long as they're drafting correctly, will be stacked. There's not going to be a team that is completely dog shit. There's not going to be a team that is going to be falling behind by a mile. So that's not really going to be helpful to just draft a zillion running backs and wide receivers, even though that is the strategy. I think that in a type of format where you want to potentially draft a tight end early is in a 10-team league, because I think that Mark Andrews gives you a nice step above the other tight ends that are going to come after him. Now, I do love tight ends later, but I do think that Mark Andrews, I know for a fact what he is going to do. I know how much Lamar Jackson loves him in the end zone. I know how much Lamar Jackson loves to throw the ball to him. So I feel confident drafting him here. But the question is, can I wait one more round and snag him in the fourth round? That is really the discussion I'm going to have in my brain here. Am I confident enough waiting, or do I want to snag him here and then go with one of the wide receivers or running backs later? And that's probably what I'm going to do, because I feel confident in one of the wide receivers falling here, since I'm probably not going to go running back. And if Leonard Fournette falls, then the decision is made for me who to pick. So I'm going to go with Mock Andrews here in the third round. I really believe his last season is not the best that he can do. I really believe that he is up there with the other the other two guys in Kelce and Kittle. I really believe he could finish as the number 1 tight end in Baltimore. So I think that Mark Andrews is an excellent pick in the third round. Shout out to Mock Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. So after we went with Mock Andrews, Chris Carson came out the board, followed by Leonard Fournette, Allen Robinson, and A.J. Brown. Obviously, I have talked about how none of these picks are really out of the ordinary. Still, none of them have. I do not like A.J. Brown, though, in the fourth round. If I'm being honest with you, there's a lot of guys that are still available that I just think are far safer than A.J. Brown, or have much more potential than A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown's a fine pick. I think he will do fine this season. I'm just not about drafting him ahead of guys like DJ Moore, ahead of guys like Robert Woods, ahead of guys like Adam Thielen, Cooper Kupp, all guys that I just feel like will have much better seasons. Now, Fantasy Pros has been moving up rapidly, rapido, as they say in Espanol, on DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a guy that I targeted heavily last season, and he really paid off. He's a guy that I could also see being one of those guys that is the receiving leader in the NFL. Now, that doesn't mean he's like receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. I mean receiving yards leader in the NFL. Teddy B is going to be hammering the ball to Mr. DJ Moore. I think he's definitely an upgrade from Kyle Allen last season. I think that DJ Moore is going to also increase his touchdown total, considering last year he only scored 4 touchdowns. I think this Panthers team is going to be very effective at throwing the ball to Mr. DJ Moore, so I'll happily take him here in the fourth round and hope that some running backs fall to me in the fifth round. If not, we'll just hop back on the wide receiver train and pick a bunch of running backs later, because my general kind of rule of thumb is to draft a bunch of running backs earlier. If they're not available and if the value is not there for me at the running back position, I'm personally not the kind of guy that wants to reach up there and just pick some guy due to the fact that I feel like I need a running back. I want to make sure that I get the value at the position, which could mean waiting later, which is A-okay with me, because I want to make sure that I'm getting the most value out of my draft picks and not making a fucking dumbass mistake and reaching when I could have probably got the guy in the next round, especially when you're at this turn kind of a pick here. So after we went with DJ Moore, OBJ came off the board, followed by Melvin Gordon, Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, Cooper Kupp, Juju Smith-Schuster, Le'Veon Bell, Calvin Ridley, James Conner, David Johnson, Robert Woods, Jonathan Taylor, Devin Singletary, and Cortland Sutton. Out of those picks, I really do not like Amari Cooper. I think he's too hot, too cold. He's going to have those games where he wins you the week. He's going to have those games where he takes a shit straight on your roster and rubs it in and then shoves his fucking finger in his mouth after he wipes it with the shit on it because he hates you and he doesn't want to succeed on a week-to-week basis. He just never does. I don't like Odell Beckham Jr. not because of the skill or the talent, but because I think they're going to be so run-heavy. I don't like Cortland Sutton because it feels like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm really fading off of Le'Veon Bell. I really liked him earlier. I still think I'd draft him, but by God, is Adam Gase a certified fucking dumbass. This guy brings in Kalen Ballage, right? The Dolphins are going to cut him. They're going to cut Kalen Ballage. And then Adam Gase is like, you know what, let me give you an unconditional or conditional, whatever that shit is, 6th or 7th round pick. Why not just wait for them to cut him and then add him yourself? Like, I actually don't understand Adam Gase. That guy's a dumbass. Frank Gore's been doing good in practice because he's given him the ball a million times. Le'Veon Bell's probably frustrated. He always is. He's always mad when he's not given the ball, and Adam Gase is a dumbass. Hopefully they fire Gase for Le'Veon Bell's sake, but right now I'm kind of just staying away, but I'll probably end up with him on a couple of teams due to the fact that he does have tremendous upside. Being one of the better running backs in the NFL, just stuck in one of the worst situations you've ever seen for a running back. Another pick, I don't like Devin Singletary in the 5th round. I love Zach Moss. I don't see the upside in Singletary. I just don't think that there's going to be enough workload for Devin Singletary to really be successful this season. Picks that I do like. Love Calvin Ridley. Love Juju. Not Juju. I kind of feeling different on Juju. I love Calvin Ridley. I love Robert Woods. I love Jonathan Taylor. I love Adam Thielen. I love Cooper Kupp. All guys that I'm really targeting inside of the 4th and 5th round. But obviously they did not end up falling to me, but I didn't really expect them to, considering how wide receiver heavy the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round are, or really every position is besides the running back. So right here, again, we're seeing a spot where I don't really want to draft a running back here. These aren't the guys that are calling my name, Alejandro, so I'm just going to wait and get some later. So here we're going to go ahead and hop back on the wide receiver train. So with me wanting to draft a wide receiver here, it's probably between 2 guys here, but to me, there's one real pick here, the guy that I really would be targeting here, and that's between DJ Chark and Terry McLaurin. Personally, I understand that both these guys are on god-awful fucking teams, but not really god-awful teams, but some of the worst teams in the league. I mean, now no team is going to finish fucking 0-16, so it's not like a complete and utter dumpster fire for either of these guys, but Terry McLaurin is playing in Washington. Obviously, the Washington football team doesn't have the greatest defense. Now, their front 7 is pretty good. It's just concerning that the back of their defense is just not too bueno. The safeties are not going to be able to stop anything, so the defense might be getting clapped down in games, which is good for Terry McLaurin, because if the defense is getting fucked over, then Terry McLaurin is going to be able to get more pass-catching opportunities from Dwayne Haskins because they're going to be down in games. Now, the real question is, will Terry McLaurin emerge in his 2nd season, play better than his 1st season? To me, yes. Why is that? Because Ron Rivera is a better coach than the coach they had last season. Dwayne Haskins is going to be a better quarterback than he was last season. Last year, Terry McLaurin did not just deal with Dwayne Haskins. It was Dwayne Haskins. It was, there was a couple other guys whose names just escape me because they're so relevant. Colt McCoy fucking played an NFL game last year. Colt McCoy. You honestly probably assume that guy wasn't even in the fucking NFL anymore, and he played a game for the Washington football team last year. So that just showed how kind of a shit show it was in Washington. I think that Terry McLaurin could be a top 12 guy, so I'm going to draft him. I think he has higher upside than DJ Chark, but I would not be surprised, again, I've talked about DJ Chark a million times, if he was also a top 12 guy, considering how dominant he was last season when given the opportunity. So after we went ahead and went with Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett came off the board, followed by Keenan Allen, Deshaun Watson, and Zach Ertz. Very interesting to note that the big 3 tight ends came off the board early in the 2nd and 3rd round, and they took all the way till 3 rounds later in the 6th for Zach Ertz to come off the board. Now, is that going to be typical in a lot of leagues? It's kind of confusing to figure out where the tight ends and quarterbacks are going to end up going in drafts, because in some drafts after Andrews, there'll be a brigade of Ertz, Waller, Henry, all guys like that. But in other leagues, there's going to be a wait just like this, so it really depends on your league mates. Same thing goes with the quarterback position. We saw Pat and Lamar go off the board in the 3rd round. Now we see Deshaun Watson come off the board 3 rounds later in the 6th. So the real question is, will we see a brigade at quarterback and tight end coming inside of the 6th and 7th round, or does it cool and tame itself? Again, it really depends on your league mates, how that's going to end up going. It really depends on the composure of your league mates, because if your teammate or if your league mates are very composed, and are not worried about losing out on a quarterback in like the 6th round, then the run's not going to happen. But if you're playing with a bunch of guys who are kind of scared, they want that quarterback, they want to make sure they get their guy, then they will reach in the 6th round. So it's really based upon your league mates, not really about how the draft typically. It's just about runs, and you guys have to avoid the run at the position, because if you hop on the run, then you're going to be missing out on extreme value at the other position, because so many people are taking quarterbacks and tight ends. So now it's time to draft running back and wide receiver here inside of the 6th round. So here we are left with the same running backs that we were kind of looking at before, since no running backs came off the board. So the question is, do we want to pick one here or double up on the wide receiver position in the last 2 rounds and really have a strong wide receiver core? But the question is, do I believe that running backs will come off the board after this, or do I believe that some will come back to us that I will be confident in the 7th round? And the answer is probably no. I'm going to be honest, the running back position falls off the board so fast. I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch of these guys came off the board. And then a running back 3 is a guy like J.K. Dobbins. And at that case, you might as well just blow your fucking brains out, because that's not the ideal start to a draft. So I'm definitely going to be going running back in this round. If you guys have enjoyed this draft so far, you've had a great time, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. It costs you nothing. And all it does is bring me joy and happiness, and it brings the videos to more people so that more people could win their fantasy football league. So please make sure that you click that subscribe button. I would personally really appreciate it. Make sure if you have any questions to leave them down below in the comments. I love answering them. Sometimes there's a zillion fucking comments, so I get backed up, but I always make sure to answer them within a day of you sending them. So now it's time to go running back here. So we're definitely going to go running back here. It's really between a couple of guys here. I like Akers, but I feel like Akers is the riskier of them all. Now, I feel like Akers has an immense upside due to the fact that he could be the workhorse in LA, and we've seen Sean McVay use Todd Gurley as a workhorse in the past, but the question is, do they actually use running back by committee, or do they go with the best player, which would be Cam Akers? So he could be a pick here, but it seems like Darrell Henderson is going to come back to play the first game. So do I believe in Cam Akers to become the running back 1 by then? I don't know, to be honest with you. I really don't know. I think he's a solid running back 4, but at running back 3, a guy I want to play at my flex? Probably not. Now, James White is a guy I really like as well, but he'll probably fall to me in the 7th round potentially. Kareem Hunt's a guy I'm also very high on. I really believe in the fact that Kevin Stefanski is going to want to run the fucking ball down his opponent's throats like he did in Minnesota, and I believe he'll be able to do that again with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and I think that Kareem Hunt's going to be getting a lot of work as a wide receiver out wide, so I think that's going to be definitely some solid value to get Kareem Hunt there in that round. There's a 95% chance Kareem Hunt will be available fucking 4 rounds from now. You can suck my ass, Fantasy Pros, even though I really respect you guys. I don't need to be getting chirped there in the 6th round. No need to chirp me, considering you probably would have already went off the board. So after we went with Kareem Hunt, Dak Prescott came off the board, followed by Russell Wilson, Kerryon Johnson, Kyler Murray, Mocky Mock Ingram, and Mock Andrews, both on the same team. DJ Chark, Hunter Henry, Carson Wentz, T.Y. Hilton, David Montgomery, Marlon Mack, I almost said Todd Gurley, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Tom, DK Metcalf, and DeAndre Swift. So now it's time for me to load up on some more running backs and wide receivers. The 7th round selection is brought to you guys by Manscaped. If you guys want your balls to look A1, have the nicest balls in your goddamn league, the nicest shaved ones, the ones that smell the best, because there's ball deodorant on Manscaped. Make sure to check out Manscaped. Use code Notorious at checkout, manscaped.com, code Notorious at checkout for 20% off, as well as free shipping. So now back to the draft. Not to hold you guys up too much, we're going to be loading up on some more running backs and wide receivers. I feel comfortable waiting on the tight end position as well as quarterback here. So now here we're probably going to dip back into the running back well and wait a little bit more to draft some more wide receivers. So here we're going to go with James White of the New England Patriots. I love James White. Super safe pick late with a lot of upside, considering it seems like Sony Michel is hurt now. He's off the PUP, but that doesn't mean he's fucking healthy. That just means now he's able to participate in practice is what that means. So Lamar Miller also kind of hurt. So James White, we could see getting a lot of in-between the tackles work there potentially this season in New England. I like James White. We've seen Cam Newton dump the ball off before to CMC. Now, there are news about, he's not very successful at dumping off the ball based upon some fucking stats, but based upon my eyes, I've seen him do it to Christian McCaffrey a bunch of times, so I think he should be fine this season. After we went James White, Josh Allen came off the board, followed by Raheem Mostert, Stephon Diggs, and Will Fuller. So now it's time to load up on probably a wide receiver here with this pick. So here we're going to go ahead and snag one of my favorite wide receivers to find in the later rounds of the draft, or the later middle rounds of the draft, I should say, is Tyler, Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals. I love Tyler Boyd. I really think that he could have another 1,000-yard season. He's had 2 in a row. This would be the 3rd in a row for Mr. Tyler Boyd. Shout out to Michael Jordan. Tyler Boyd plays very well with A.J. Green healthy. Now, the reports are that A.J. Green is fine now. A.J. Green is king of getting hurt, though, so even with him hurt, Tyler Boyd still plays pretty well. But obviously, if you're a Tyler Boyd guy, you probably hope AJ Green plays, since he gets more points per game on an average basis with AJ Green in both half PPR and full PPR. So I'm all about the Tyler Boyd train here. I think that with Joe Burrow, he is just going to be a much better fucking player this season because last year it was really a shit show for the Cincinnati Bengals. They went from having Andy Dalton to them benching Andy Dalton on his birthday to bring in Ryan Finley, and then to going back to Andy Dalton. It was really confusing for the Cincinnati Bengals, but Tyler Boyd throughout that, even without AJ Green, put up an excellent season. So I think that we could see him do that again, and happily we'll snag him here in the 8th round of the draft. So now it's definitely time to take another running back. I feel like if we don't go running back here, we're really going to be probably disappointed in the next couple of rounds if we don't take one. So after we went with Tyler Boyd, Cam Akers came out the board, followed by Michael Gallup, Jarvis Landry, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill. I don't really love Tyreek Hill, or Tyreek Hill, I believe is how you say his name. Not Tyreek Hill, holy shit, Tariq Cohen. But now with David Montgomery potentially missing the first couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure he's not going to play the first 2 games. I'm almost sure of it. I think the 2 to 4 weeks is a very cautious take. That would make him potentially back for week 1. I'd assume he misses maybe 2 weeks, probably to 4 weeks of the NFL season. So that could be an upside play for them. But after that, I'm not too happy having Tariq Cohen on my team. After that, we see Julian Edelman, followed by Hollywood Brown, Devontae Parker, Keyshawn Vaughn, Brandon Cooks, Ronald Jones, Marvin Jones, double Jones back-to-back, and then Deebo Samuel. So here we're probably going to go ahead and attack running back again, since I feel like it's really going to fall off, and then we can snag a bunch of late-round wide receivers with a bunch of upside for my team. So here we're going to go with Jordan Howard. Now, Jordan Howard might be one of the least sexy picks in your fantasy football draft, but what does that mean? It means that Jordan Howard is probably going to be good because he's not very sexy. Now, he's not going to catch a lot of passes. That's Breida's lane, obviously. So you could go with Breida as well. I think both of these guys are going to be good for fantasy, since I think the Dolphins aren't going to be as shit as most would project. I like Jordan Howard here. I think he's going to be getting the rock a lot. I think Brian Flores, holy shit. Brian Flores, I should say. His name's B-Flow. That's what I call him every time. Brian Flores, head coach of the Miami Dolphins. I should know what his actual name is because I'm a Dolphins fan, but remembering the first name of my head coach is something that it slips the mind, like Bill Cosby got to me or something. So Jordan Howard, for me, is going to be a nice pick here. Definitely a super safe pick. He's been a guy who's gotten over 1,000 yards in multiple seasons of his NFL career. So finding him super late in the draft is definitely worth an upside pick inside of the 9th round. I'm not saying he's going to be the next fucking amazing sleeper pick, but he's a guy that I'd happily throw into my roster given something happens to some of my starting players. So after Jordan Howard, we see Deontay Johnson, followed by John Brown, Sony Michel, and J.K. Dobbins. I really wanted Deontay Johnson to fall to me. He ends up not. Now, Jameson Crowder is just far too fucking high up in the rankings. I don't get it. I really don't get it, if I'm being completely honest with you. I don't understand it because the Jets are going to be so shit. The reports are that the Jets team is looking atrocious. In camp, they literally can't do anything. So, I don't know. I'm not going to draft him. I mean, sure, he's going to get some volume, but what's volume worth if the ball isn't even being thrown to him very good? Because it seems like Sam's not playing too well in camp. So now it's time to go with another wide receiver here. I want to snag Mr. Anthony Miller of the Chicago Bears. He's a late-round pick that I've really been targeting as of late. Anthony Miller's a guy that is on the Chicago Bears, obviously, but now that 9-inch Nick Foles is likely going to be the starting quarterback, since he is reportedly inches ahead of Mitch Trubisky, if you know what I'm saying. So I think that he's going to be the starter, and I think that we really see another emerging season out of Anthony Miller. He definitely played better last season. I think he steps up even better in his 3rd year, I believe, in the NFL for Anthony Miller. So now after Anthony Miller, Tevin Coleman came at the board, followed by Evan Ingram, Easy E, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Emmanuel Sanders, Niners defense, which is the worst pick of the draft because you don't draft the defense until the last 2 rounds, followed by Darrell Henderson, Jamison Crowder, Phillip Lindsay, Darren Waller, Jerry Jeudy, Steelers defense, Matt Breida, and CeeDee Lamb. So we still don't have a starting quarterback, but everyone pretty much does, and we just don't have ours yet. I'm pretty sure every team has a starting quarterback. Let's see. The quarterbacks are green. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, every team is starting quarterback aside from myself, so I can happily wait there. Now, the question is, do I want to get Hurst here, or do I mind waiting? I think I will mind waiting because I want to go ahead and snag Mr. Zach Moss of the Buffalo Bills. I've talked this guy up a million times. I made a whole video where he's on the fucking thumbnail because of how good I believe he will personally be in 2020. I see so much upside in him with Devin Singletary not really getting as many touches as most would believe, and with Zach Moss really tearing it up in camp. So now we got to draft a tight end here. After Mike Williams, we see McCole Hardman followed by Austin Hooper and Matt Ryan. We're not drafting a backup quarterback or a backup tight end, so we're going to go with tight end here and then probably go Drew Brees before people start taking a backup quarterback, even though someone already did, drafting Mr. Matt Ryan before we made our pick. So Hayden Hurst is a nice... I'm so dumb. That is actually the biggest oopsie I've ever made in my life. We already have Mark Andrews, so we didn't even need a tight end. So we're going to actually undo that. That was very stupid on my behalf. That's something I would never do. So we're going to go ahead and go back-to-back Michael Jordan, 96, 97, to draft a quarterback here, and then load up on some running backs and some wide receivers. That was a huge mistake by me. If I was paying attention more, I would not have done that. Big oopsie by your boy here. So we're going to go with Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints. Seems like he's going to have yet another season. They brought him back for a reason. They demanded he came back. They literally shook him up in a back alley and made him come back to play this season. So I'll happily go ahead and draft him here inside of the 12th round of the draft. Now we're going to go ahead and need a bench player and then probably our kicker and defense. Obviously, our kicker and defense. After with Drew Brees, Noah Fant came out the board, followed by the Ravens, Royce Freeman, Jared Cook, Hayden Hurst, Latavius Murray, Aaron Rodgers, Tony Pollard, Duke Johnson, Anthony Madison, Alexander Madison, Boston Scott, Justin, call me Miss Jackson, and then Antonio Gibson, and Chase Edmonds. So now it's time to draft our last bench player, which is going to be a wide receiver here. Take a nice upside pick here late on Mr. Let's see, there's a lot of guys here I like. I like Pittman. I like Ayuk. I like Lazard. I like Harry. I like Williams. I like Reagor. I like Golden Tate. We're going to go Reagor here. Haven't drafted him too much. Could really be the wide receiver one of the team, considering the rest of the wide receivers are so fucking injury prone there in Philly. That seems like worthy of a shot to take inside of the 13th round of the draft. After we went with Reagor, AP came out the board, followed by Dillon, Bills defense, and the New England Patriots. So now it's time to draft our defense and kicker and get the fuck out of here. So we're going to get our kicker, Harrison Butker, the fucker of the Kansas City Chiefs. I do have a kicker rankings video, I should say. You can find that on my channel. Just click on it, look at the rankings, click off. I know you're not going to watch a whole fucking video about kickers, but I would appreciate if you did. The real players going in this draft, I was kickers are people too, so are defenses. But hey, I'm just not really going to go super in depth on that. After Tucker, we saw Hines, and then we saw Stafford, and then Ruggs. And then that was it. And then my old bitch Lane, but my young Hoku going in the 15th round. So now we need a defense. You want to find a defense playing a not-so-hot offense week one. That's normally the Chargers, but the Chargers are off the board here. So we're going to look through a bunch of defenses here. They're playing Houston week one, the Chiefs, so I don't want that. The Bears are playing the Lions. That's a tough one because the Bears' defense is good. The Lions have a good offense, but I'm still going to go with them, even though I think Stafford will probably end up having a good game week one. So we got a B-plus roster. Very nice. I like a U, but we're going to get an A-plus in our heart. So our team is quarterback Drew Brees. Our running backs are Derrick Henry and Austin Ekeler. Our wideouts are DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin. Our tight end is Mark Andrews. Our defense is the Bears. Our kicker is Harrison Butker, the fucker. Our bench is comprised of James White, Tyler, Boyd, Jordan Howard, Anthony Miller, Zach Moss, and Jalen Reagor. So hopefully you guys did end up enjoying this video. If at any point you ended up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I love each and every single one of you motherfuckers, and I'll see you guys later with yet another heater of a video. Goodbye.